at Christian's place, and we are going to do a little bit of meal prep. Not just meal prep, but it's going to be a little bit more on the organization side, simply systematizing how he's putting his meals together. So I actually had him buy a few of the foods that I would buy just because I'm comfortable cooking them. But more than anything, they are super simple. And as you see going forward in the video, what we'll do is basically bulk cook, which isn't new to most folks, but we'll bulk cook, and you'll see how we just kind of like, I guess I'll just jump right into it. So we've got our, where is it? Our veggies. I don't know if you really see that, veggies over here. And we're gonna move into this space just to chop. We're not gonna turn the oven on. We're not gonna turn the stove on or anything just yet. We're just going to chop, so that way everything is prepared for when we are ready to turn on the ovens. What did you call it in French?
Oh, mise en place.
Mise en place. Mise en place. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but so in any case, we've got that there, plus right next to the sink, just in case we've got to wash stuff. Then as we rotate over into this space, this will be where we take our chopped things. We'll prepare some things. Today we're going to put the veggies in the oven. We're not going to do stovetop, but then the meats and stuff we'll put on the stovetop in the cast iron. And then once we're done, we go straight to weighing and plating. But you can see how we've put it together where it's, I don't want to say over-engineered, but everything's happening kind of like in a streamlined system, and that's the way I've always done it. It's always helped out just to make sure that the system, the process is easy to understand, easy to execute, so that way when you move into trying to create new recipes, or you're moving into creating more complex meals, you still have the same system, and it doesn't throw you off track with the organization. We're just going to go over a little bit of how we're cutting these. Really simple. Christian is over here quartering the Brussels sprouts. Number one, it's going to help them cook a little bit faster in the oven, but also they're bite sized. So the key here is, especially when you're dieting down, you don't want your food to feel like it's another chore. So we're just making it easy. Yeah, some of the smaller ones, he's halving it, but you get the idea. So same thing with the purple cabbage and the purple onion. The purple onion, we're kind of cutting it into slivers, and it'll fall apart like that. Same idea with the purple cabbage, in that we're not making it big. Cook time is important to consider here too. So we're just kind of cutting, dump it all in there. The way I'm going to cut this onion is pretty simple. I just like to cut it in half, and then not widthwise, but top to bottom. And I'm just going to go along with the ribs of the onion and cut it again. Same thing, knuckle first, fingernails behind you, and I'm just going to kind of cut on this angle. And you can see how I'm just basically making thin strips. You don't have to do it like this. You can quarter it, you can chunk it, do whatever. But this is just the way, out of habit, I like to, cut my onions. If you're being really particular, and it's difficult, but keep the butt end on first, because that's what holds the onion together, and then you go your chopping. Typically, I'll just turn it, and I'll get rid of that first. I haven't really noticed a big difference in how well the onion chops one way or the other. But that's it. I'll just cut it there, and then I might just do like halfway. Pick them up, try not to cry, right in the pan. Easy peasy. With the purple cabbage, I'm just here, and I'm gonna slice all the way down. And once it's down to the core, I'll just remove the core, and then I would go 1, 2, 3. Again, smaller bites. The onion as well as the cabbage are layered, so they're going to tend to fall apart into smaller pieces anyhow. So that's what we got so far. Okay, we're about to. We just put a little bit of olive oil total, probably about an ounce or so, maybe a little bit more. Olive oil on here, and we have the asparagus, the green beans, the purple onion, and purple cabbage, purple potatoes, and Brussels sprouts. So we put a little bit of olive oil on there, and now Christian is pulling out the, what do we got? Black cherry chipotle and the Creole Tony Chachere's seasoning, and he's about to douse them. He is dousing them. It's happening right now live on this recording that you'll see months later. He's just gonna put a liberal amount. Now on the camera it may not look like there's a lot here, but there's just shit ton of vegetables, and then the potato has some starch. So he's just gonna liberally put it on there, and then once he's done, he's just gonna get his hands in there and he's going to mix it, get it all coated evenly, and the olive oil, of course, is gonna help two things. Number one, help the seasoning stick. Also make sure that the vegetables and the potato doesn't burn easily underneath the oven. All right, guys, pro tip: when you're cutting up bell peppers, one way I like to do it so that way you don't have to mess with the seeds getting everywhere, especially if you're going to keep them and roast them. Let me put it over here actually. Is I like to, you see we did it with one of these already, which basically you just cut the top off just below where you estimate the bottom of the this part to be, and I'll show you what we do next. So I'm just going to go here, and these things are never just a straight line, so I'm going to do about ½ an inch below and cut. This one was good actually, so I didn't go as deep as that thing went, but very simply we have something we can cut up and use right away. This goes to the side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers in here and I'm just going to grab, rotate with it contained. I'm going to post this up against. I'm just going to rotate with it contained, so that way I'm able to take out the majority of it. Now you see we've still got a little bit in there, which is fine. You just give it a tap, most of it's going to come out, and once in a while you'll have a little bit of residue, and basically you just peel and toss it out. But the key here is it's still all contained. You're doing it all inside of here. You're not like every 2 seconds scooping up a seed and having to hassle with it. But that's it. Now the thing's ready to cut. Or stuff if you're going to do like a chili relleno or something like that. So, all right, guys, we are back. We're about to cook the ground beef, 85-15 ground beef, the ground turkey, and then we've got some chicken breasts that we're going to butterfly at the end. So Christian just came over and picked out his seasonings that he's going to use for the cookins, and we're about to get to it. All right, guys, also pro tip, we've got the skillets heating up, but one way you can check to see if it's warm enough, if it's a true medium or medium high, is essentially just drop some water in it, and if it boils, bubbles rather, then it's good. If it starts popping and dancing, it's too hot, pull the heat down for the way that we're going to cook these. Why is that important? Because if you're cooking with some oils, especially olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, anything like that, that doesn't necessarily have the highest smoking point, whenever those oils start to smoke, then they change their they change to a trans fat. Actually, there's a covalent bond exchange that happens because of the rapid oxidation. They change into the bad type of fat instead of the healthy fat that it is in its natural state. So if that happens, don't sweat it. Just dump the oil, rinse the pan real quick, and start over. It's not a big deal. But the key here is you want your oils often, especially with a good olive oil. A lot of chefs will tell you you don't use it heated. You put it right at the end of the dish, or you use it as a topping. I've cooked with olive oil heated my whole life and I've never had an issue. But anyways, just figured I'd share that. Another pro tip. So Christian and I just put in which one is this? This is the 85-15 ground beef, and that's the 93.7 ground turkey, which I didn't realize it was that lean until after we were about to put it in. And so pro tip here is that we actually use water in both of them to kind of maintain the moisture of the meat. Also make sure that you're not over searing, you're not turning any of the already existing animal fat into a worse kind of fat by burning it. Part of it is a texture, it's a flavor thing as well. We put a ton of seasonings in here. One of them I put in is this wood-fired garlic, and you can see it's not granulated, not highly granulated, it's a very fine. And so oftentimes the ones that are fine that even might have the tiniest little bit of sugar in there will tend to burn. So if you're adding the water, it's going to save the meat, especially the lean stuff. It's going to keep it, help keep it a bit leaner. But also the flavor, the texture is going to be there. You're going to continue to be able to enjoy the food that you're eating, even when it's cold, because that happens when you're on prep. So there it is. He's doing a little bit more.
Do I worry about calories?
No. So right now, so this is Christian's first show. 2 things we are not going to worry about throughout the duration of his prep is calories from seasoning. Now I say that a bit tongue-in-cheek because there's plenty of seasonings out there that have loads of sugar, loads of other stuff in there where the calories are going to jump up pretty high. But most seasonings, you're looking at 10, 12 calories or lower. I don't want you worrying about that. The other part is sodium. Most times, even with my experienced athletes back in the day and myself, we don't mess with sodium until the last few days before a show because it just doesn't make sense. Unless you're someone who is pre-hypertensive or someone who has blood pressure issues already, you don't really want to address sodium. You want to continue to keep it in your diet because remember, sodium is an electrolyte which is required for muscle contraction. And then somebody's mowing the lawn over here. Amongst, a whole host of metabolic functions. So if it's your first show or if you've not done a show or whatever, guys, keep it super simple and do the fundamentals consistently so you can see the result you get from those first. Then as you continue to bodybuild, as you continue to, or even if you're not doing shows, just getting more in tune with your food awareness, what you're putting in your body. Christian and I were just talking about some of those things a moment ago. Specifically with like tuna, and yeah, it's tuna in oil, but once upon a time he didn't pay attention to it. Well, now he knows it's soybean oil. We don't want, as guys, we don't want soybean oil. So a bunch of stuff that you'll pick up along the way. But initially, don't feel like you're in a rush to do all of the things all of the time at max capacity. You've got to give yourself some room to grow. All right, gang, so sometimes mistakes happen. So Christian is over here working over one of his cast irons because it just happened to burn. So anytime you notice anything burning, I feel like this kind of is a standard across whatever you're cooking. If you notice something burning, you just pull it. Slowing down the heat of cooking something when it comes to just prepping basic stuff is not going to ruin your food. It's not going to mess anything up. Just move it over to a plate. In this case, it was just chicken breast, so he just put it onto a clean cutting board. He'll scrape off all the burnt bits there. Put it back on, hit it with your spray, and just kind of continue as you work. Okay, so we are at the point now where the majority of things are done being cooked. The veggies and everything are still in the oven, just kind of finishing up. So Christian finished cooking the chicken, and all I'm having him do is stack them about 3 breasts high, just it's easier to cut more. And he's cutting them in strips. I'm not particular about is it with the grain of the muscle, or the grain of the meat, or against it, whatever. We're just making sure that he's cutting them in about 1 inch to 3/4 inch thick strips, just because that's the way I've always done it. You can cube it, you do whatever way, shred it, whatever you want. I just know that when I cook it like this, where it's a bit pan-seared, it's got that juice in there, those strips that you can kind of bite and chew on almost like a steak is always preferable. So almost everything is cooked. Kristen's gonna put all the sweet potatoes that we cubed and put in the oven. So basically what we've got right now is everything's prepared next to where we're going to weigh and plate everything. Now here we've got a scale. Make sure that when you've got your scale, you accommodate the weight of a plate or whatever plastic you're using, and make sure you zero out the scale. Let it turn on, zero it by itself, and then zero it out after a second time after you put these things on there. So all we're really going to do here essentially is we're going to do one thing at a time. So we've got protein. That's residual protein. We've got veggies with some potato in there, so we'll separate that out as we plate it. And then starches. So first thing we're going to do is just plate 3 or 4 with the chicken, 3 or 4 with the, which one is that? The ground turkey, then 3 or 4 with the ground meat. Get our measurement and then move on to the next part. So this, guys, real simple. We're shooting for 49 grams of protein per, no matter what the protein source.
It's 49.6, call it good.
49.6, yeah, it's just and guys, don't be super specific. This one was 49.6, the other one was 48.7 or something like that. Just get close as you can. But this makes it super easy.